the first thing I would like to say is I'm very happy to be here today. And the reason is that after so many years, machine translation and human translation are coming closer. Only in the last year, we have seen a tremendous increase in machine translation usage inside the human translation workflow. This story is started many years ago. The European Commission is always using machine translation to do post-editing with not so very good results. But recently, probably due to our good work in this field, we're starting seeing a lot of productivity increase for us. And so it's an exciting moment to start developing this technology. And I think that there will be a lot of opportunities in the next years for you. I'm also happy because the first company I founded, I did it when I was a university student, dropping university to launch the first company. And so today I see the same kind of opportunities in the market for you that I see for me. So I don't ask you to drop university for sure, but I probably want to let you know that it's a good moment for human language technologies. So let's introduce the company first. Marcello said something. Translated is a technology company, true, but what we offer to the end customer is a language service. We offer human translation. Our kind of customers are IBM, Google, Amazon, and about other 15,000 small companies that want to go global. So they send us their website, or Google sends us Gmail, and we translate this content into 80 languages, or as many languages they want. Since 1999, we have done about 170,000 translation jobs. So imagine that the translation industry is not something where you have a very large project coming and you work on this for 3 years. It's more, here's a small document, get it delivered in 2 days. So considering this, you realize that for our industry, it was impossible to try to think about machine translation because of the time it required to set up an engine and all these problems. Now, today, this is changing. Our core technology is a fully automated workflow. So the things that make us different from a standard translation company is the fact that the customer sends us document to us probably through an API, so a server-to-server communication. We have created a statistical model to know which translator is good for translating that kind of content. So we analyze the content, we match against the 50,000 translators we have and their past performances on these jobs, and we know the perfect match. Then we ask a second translator to verify the quality of that document, and if the quality is good, we send it back to the customer. And we try to do it with as few as human intervention as possible, except of the human translators. So in our industry, the two main problems I see is helping translators, the first one. Obviously, the entire amount of content that we are translating today, it depends by a single factor, the cost of translation. So a translator can produce today about 3,000 words per day, and this is the fact that the way how the tool works, how they're quick, and there is a certain variation in this performance, but this is limiting the amount of things we translate. If you see Wikipedia, the English Wikipedia is great, and all the others are not as great as the English one. Is that because we don't have accessible, low-cost translation services for quality. So, no, machine translation is almost there. No, you could translate a Wikipedia page with machine translation, but this is not still happening. So, we probably need to find a solution that combines the two technology to try to achieve those goals. So, we want to help translators being more productive, from 3,000 words per day to tens of thousands, if we can. This will completely change the amount of content we translate. And the second very, very important thing is cutting out the middlemen. So today in the market, when you ask for a translation, you go to a translation company that is going to another smaller translation company, died, okay. And then it's going to the translator. All these steps are not really adding value. This is what we call the middlemen. So we want to create a better connection from the customers to the translators. Obviously, how can we solve these problems? So today, now we're talking about MyMemory, one of our projects, and it's trying to solve the problem number one, so increasing the productivity. What we have used always was translation memory. But if you try to scale translation memory to a large scale, you realize translation memory are not solving the problem. Now, if you take this sentence, or when I type at the sentence, there was no matches, now there are some. But this sentence is really simple. In Google, there is no page that contains exactly the sentence. So imagine, if there is not an English page, the probability that there is a translation on the web of that content is zero, sub-zero. So you realize the language is extremely complex. Through translation memories, you will not be able, even if you collect the entire information in the world, you will never be able to help translator in translating really all the content they have. And that obviously comes from the fact that the probability of a 10-word sentence, random generated 10-word sentence, is very, very, very small. Machine translation looks like the solution. No? We said translation memory takes longer sentence, and this sentence does not exist on the web. But you know, smaller chunk may exist. So the principle of statistical machine translation is exactly that take those information, create chunks in a phrase table, combine it with a language model, and create a nice translation. That approach looks very interesting to us. But the reality is that today, the market for machine translation is zero. Today, just to give you numbers, the human translation industry is worth $20 billion a year. And the entire machine translation industry is only 200 million. So 1% of that of the market is machine translation. And the reason is that machine translation was used completely for a different purpose, translating web pages. So giving the user a final translation. It was never seriously applied for helping translators. So the idea we have is that why don't we take machine translation to try to help translators more and integrate them in a better way. And that's, I think, is what we are trying to achieve, but also what the opportunity is out there for all of you. So I imagine that you don't have a lot of knowledge of translation memory technology, but there is really nothing to learn. It's very sentence level database, and there is a fuzzy matching algorithm to check for similar sentences. So it's pretty simple, and the fact that it's so simple also is limiting translation memory. So if I have to think about what is the perfect translation memory for me, is something that can search across a very, very large translation archive. Today, translation memory are a desktop tool. So translator have a small translation memory, like 10,000 sentences in their PC. And while they're working with this small translation memory coming from the customer. So first thing we want to say is that, okay, take every single information that's been translated in the past and create a very large translation archive so that the translator will not only look in the small translation memory, but the entire database. Obviously, we want this to be still fast. The second thing is that translation memory are static. If there is an error in the translation memory, we stay there forever. So we want to bring the wiki-like experience you see today in the web, the collaborative platform, inside translation memory, so that people can edit translation, or if I find one translation which is better than the other one, I want to rate. So if I have two matches, I want to know which one is probably the best one. Well, that's more for professional translators. So today there is no way to create and download and bring in to your desktop environment translation memories. So we probably want to develop those functionalities. And obviously, as I said, translation memory are very static. There is no indication that tells me what sources are trusted and what not. No, people are contributing, saying, oh, this is a nice translation, and we don't have, and then we have another translation coming from the European Parliament or the Apple website, and Apple spends a lot of money in checking their quality. So, and we are evaluating those information is equal. And also you, in doing the training of statistical machine translation, you're taking all the input as equal. and it's not. There are trusted sources and untrusted sources. So we want to add a layer of information into the translation memory where we can say, no, giving an a priori probability and saying, this is probably good, this is not. And obviously you want to propagate changes in real time. When you're creating a large search engine or large archive, then you come to technology like search engines, like Google. And Google represents the web as it was a week ago. Now with new indexes maybe a day ago or a month ago based on the page, but it's not the content, it's not live, it's not always. So we want to create a technology that indexes in real-time content. And obviously, translators have been working for many years with translation memory. We don't want to change the way they work. We want to integrate statistical machine translation into the translation memory. They're used to understand suggestions coming from the translation memory. So they know how to read and take information and then render the final document. So why don't we use that channel that already exists to suggest also statistical machine translation? Well, obviously, CAT tools are the tools that translators use with translation memories. It's the computer-aided translation. So obviously we want this open standard and we want every CAT tool to be able to connect this large archive. And obviously the reason why I'm here is that we want to do all this, and so MyMemory will try to achieve all these goals, and already did. So what MyMemory is a free collaborative web translation memory. Anyone can go there and add a translation, anyone can download the translation, or eventually for scientific purposes you can download an amount of data that you can use to train an engine. And we want to organize all the language information in the world by crawling the entire web. If you want to do this, if you want to create a very large archive, the first problem you have is contribution. How do you promote contribution? Why people should share their translation memory with you? Well, the first barrier is probably privacy and intellectual property they're thinking about. So I'm a translator, I'm working for a customer. Can I share my translation memory with the entire world? No, this is, so there is information that are protected. I cannot. So we have to find a way to bypass this problem. And the other thing is that obviously they should get value. So if they spend some time in providing you information, the value they're getting back should be higher. So the question is, if we solve these two problems, will people contribute? Well, what we discovered with MyMemory was that absolutely yes. About 2 years ago, when we started promoting the MyMemory, we have been receiving about 100 words per second in contribution. So translation memory from translators and from customers. So if you solve those problems, yes, they will contribute. And now today we have about 5 billion words in the archive. That is the contribution trend. Unfortunately, there is not the date there, because every time I make a presentation, I have to update it. So I said, don't do it. But this is about the last year and a half. Where is the information coming from? Well, and that's the same reason why I have to have percentages, because they change over time. But to give you a raw idea, a good chunk of the information is coming from aligning the web. We crawl the web, we find bilingual websites, we extract parallel pages and then parallel sentences, and we put into MyMemory. Translators are the second largest contributors, and strangely for me, also customers want to contribute a lot. And the first time I didn't understand this, but then you realize that this is your communication. First they want people looking for their product to be found, and then if they have a link back to their website, they're happy. It works like a search engine. But also, Microsoft 20 years ago started sharing the language data, and they were sharing the glossaries. And the reason is that if you promote your terminology as a customer, you become stronger in the market, because the developer will use your language to develop application. So your But now the new software you have developed talks better the Microsoft language than the Apple language, so it will work better on one platform than the other. So language is a way also to promote your business. So I took the statistic from Google Analytics. That's the good news now for us, but also for you for the opportunity. 74,000 unique visitors yesterday used the system to search the translation memory in one day, and we served about a million queries. So there is market interest in this technology. So the benefit, LSP means language service provider, people, translation companies, is that while using the system, they have more control. They don't have to send the translation memory to many translators and then they're not able to collect them again. It's a centralized repository, so they have more control. They can do quick QA. Now you want to know if your translators are translating well one term, you type it and you see all the way this term is being translated, and you don't have to read all the documents to check that that term was correctly translated in all the material. And for translators, mainly is a concordancer. They go there, they look for a term, and they check how in different websites on different translation memory the term was translated. Obviously, they get free translation memory. That's another big benefit for them. So the challenges we had in creating this technology was the scalable real-time indexing. As I said to you before, Google, Yahoo, Bing, search engine, they're not real-time. They index, they crawl the web, they index, and then they show you how the web was a certain period in the past. With translation, you cannot do it, because if you're translating a term, you just translate one sentence, and then you have a similar sentence, you want to benefit from that information in real time. And so building that infrastructure at scale with real-time indexing was a little challenge. Also the adaptive ranking, the fact that we have to take into consideration feedback from the users for the quality to change the ranking of the algorithm, that was also pretty challenging. And obviously scaling with low cost was difficult. To generate the interest, what we have done is that first we pre-populated the archive with open corpus like the European Parliament, the UN, and other corpuses, so that there was material for translators. They came there, they find some translation from them, and obviously they started also contributing. We made contribution really easy, and obviously it's absolutely free, and that's the basic rule of the internet. Make it free and get traffic. For protecting IP, as I said before, it was one important problem to solve, is that we're allowing people to have private memories. So if you're not very comfortable with sharing your data, you can just load the data in your personal archive so that only you will be able to search across them. So what translators do, they normally take their data, they upload in a private environment, and then they use it. When they feel more comfortable, they can decide to make it public if they think so. And we have created a couple technologies to hide proper nouns, so that we have a parallel corpus, so we try to extract the proper nouns based on source target similarities, and so we can hide them, so that if we're saying IBM is firing 100 employees, we can put a tag across IBM so that no one's know who is doing this bad thing. If there is a problem, anyone can say this memory contains intellectual property or content that should not be shared online, so they can report it and the memory gets deleted immediately. And as simple as this, crawling the web, we respect robust standard. So we do exactly what any other search engine in the web does. Crawl the web. If a website wants to be crawled, well, you index the content and you provide a link back to them. And if they want, you just don't do it. For quality, that was one important thing. We have been collecting feedback from the crowd. So when you use the tool, you have the possibility of saying, I like this translation and I don't like it. Based on that information, we are able to do this QA correlation, which means that we analyze the correlation between the votes and the source of that information, So we can understand that in general the Apple websites provide better translation than the Logitech website, for example. And so in the ranking we can promote Apple against Logitech or any other site. And I don't want to say that Logitech is bad. It's a good quality website, but I need an example. So the key is that today we have collected about 5 billion words, and the question is 5 billion words big? Is enough? And the answer is absolutely not. Only the language industry is producing about tens of billions of words every year. And so if you really want to organize all the language information, you should be able to get a database as big as hundreds of billions of words. That is the kind of scale where we cover the knowledge. And that is the knowledge that then can be used to train statistical machine translation. So the next step we really want to do is integrate this technology with every CAT tool. Today, the standard CAT tool like Trados, which is the most common one, already integrates MyMemory. So translators that are using one CAT tool can really get benefit from MyMemory, which means you get a human translation if we have one. If we don't have one, we'll provide you a statistical machine translation. And so we integrated statistical machine translation in standard workflow. And through this in the last year, we have been translating about 10 million words for our, maybe 20, for our customers using this process. So it means not only something that is there for the end users, for the web to search for translation, but is also generating a lot of interest and money in the human industry. So, what guess the adjective for this picture is? It's brave, braveheart. And the reason is that today the system was not working, but I will try to do a live demo anyway. This morning we had it down. Okay. So that was simply looks like. Is a search form, and I can type, for example, lithium battery, and I want the translation from lithium battery from English to French. Philip was mentioning pauses, people stopping during the translation. The biggest reason why translators, professional translators, stop during the translation process is terminology. They find a term that they don't understand. They need a clarification. They can think or look for a term somewhere else. And this is the biggest waste of productivity for professional translators. And what they do, they go on the web and they search for lithium batteries, and then they manually search for a translated web page that contains that information. So what we have tried to do is to automate the process and collect that information from them and present to them. So lithium battery, work it, okay? So, pill or lithium, this is coming from Wikipedia. As you see, evaluated 5 stars from somewhere else. Or you also have a sentence that give you an idea. So, built-in rechargeable, okay, lithium-ion battery. Here's the translation, so I can turn off the colors. Okay. And this information is coming from the Logitech website, and it's evaluated as 5, so I said Logitech is good. The things you can do is that if you find a translation you don't like, well, this is good, but I will delete it anyway. You can do like this, by quickly deleting something or quickly editing something. For one animal I really like is platypus, and often you have to translate it in French. For those kind of things, the translator, there's no way you will know the French name of that. It's something very specific. So what they do, they go and search for that information. Is said ornithorynch. And as a translator, in order to build your final sentence, you not only need the translation of that term, you also need to understand what you're talking about. So you can click on the reference page. you go to the ornithorynch webpage in Wikipedia and you realize where the information was extracted, and you realize it's this strange animal that lives in Australia, I think. Yes. So, one other example I also do is that I forgot my business cards. That is always true, but I say always that it's because now I'm more eco and I don't want to use paper, but it's not true. So I forgot my business card. Oh, I found an entire sentence. This is pretty rare, but probably because I made this demo so many times. And so let's make it a little bit harder. I forgot my nice business cards. Obviously, so we proposed to the translator this sentence that he could use to generate the other one, but we also proposed the machine translation. The machine translation is probably not as good as it should, because maybe the adjective should be there. I studied in French, but that was 5 years, 10 years ago. So is there anyone here that speaks French very well that can correct the sentence?
Maybe, so that should be before
Okay, so I just, what I can do is that I click it here, suggest a better translation, and then I can remove belle and put me belle carte d'affaires.
Yes.
Plural. Good. You say insert. Done. This is now, so is the way we took a statistical generated sentence into a human process, fixing it, and now we have new training data. Obviously, professional translators are now working through the web interface, unless they're doing some concordance search. But this is integrated in their CAT tool, so they're receiving these suggestions, correcting it, and going back. The next time we train the engine, we'll probably have this sentence translated. And there are many activities in this direction. Also, one project we're working with FBK and Philip is to try to statistically analyze the editing data to try to propose new translations based on the minimization of the time to edit, so that we look at the data and we retrain the engine based on this information to be able to provide sentences that are not probably the best looking sentences for, as Google Translate should do in order to give you a good translation of a web page, but a sentence that minimizes the time to edit for a professional translator. This could be one direction we're working on, but I really hope that I share with you this information, what we're doing, the kind of challenges and results we had in our pure business, non-scientific project, and I hope that this will stimulate other projects in this direction. That was all from me.
Okay, let's thank the speaker. So we welcome questions now. Yes, please.
I was wondering what happens to the reference when you edit the translation?
Today it stays still the initial reference. So we haven't thought about, we're collecting that information, but we're printing the initial reference. Let's say we need to fix it.
So I see there is no advertising, so how do you make money?
First, we make money because we are a translation company. We're collecting this data, and as I said, we generated about €1 million in revenues by using translation memory and statistical machine translation together in improving the productivity of our translators. So more information is there, more people we contribute, more money we make by saving money on the translation activities. That's the business model today. And we have many visitors, so we could monetize. But if you put advertising there, the contribution rate will drop down, and we don't want it. Now.
So you said that a large part of the translations come from the web. So are they added automatically, or?
Yeah.
So there might be automatic translations if the words were translated automatically.
This is a big problem, and in general,